Quoting from a print periodical such as a newspaper, magazine, or journal is pretty straightforward. Either you have one in hand or you have accessed one on the internet, and it is just like quoting prose narration. Adding it to your list of works cited is where it gets a bit more complicated, but not much. In this video, we will talk exclusively about journal articles. There's a separate video dedicated to newspapers and magazines, the newsstand periodicals, so check that one out as well. The first thing you need to do is find an article. Remember that using credible academic resources means finding the written opinions of scholars. Next, you need to carefully read those opinions and annotate as you read. Then, you need to borrow some of the words of those scholars to enhance or support a point that you are making. When you are using a scholar's words, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, the words must be used honestly. In other words, you cannot appropriate a scholar's words without understanding the point of the article. It's easy to find a string of words that would work in your paper, but they cannot be used in a manner contrary to the author's meaning. So read carefully and read the whole article. Always introduce the author of the article in the body of your paper. It's not enough simply to use a quote and a parenthetical citation. You need to establish the credibility of your source in the setup of the quote, in that lead-in sentence. You should also credit ideas as well as words. If in your research an author gave you some insight into your topic that you didn't have before and you want to use that idea, it's best to cite it. Better to be safe than sorry. And then your citation will be a little bit different than most. If you have used the author's name, which you should, to set up the quote, then you don't need the name in parentheses. If for whatever reason you haven't used the author's name in the setup, then the name belongs in the citation as well. Let's look at an example. Let's say I'm writing a paper on Shakespeare's play The Tempest, and I'm writing about the temptation to see the island as an allegory for British colonialism in America. Nice topic, huh? I found a great article in Shakespeare Quarterly. Of course, I'm going to set up my quote by providing some information about the author. So here goes. And once again, the magic of word processing. There's my setup sentence. David Francis Taylor, in his article, The Disenchanted Island, A Political History of the Tempest, 1760 to 1830, writes about images of the play reflecting the political anxieties in England. So I've got the author's name here, and I've given the title of his article. That is an important part of using a scholar's work. I'm going to just drop in my quote here. The island imagined in Tempest caricatures serve as complex satirical articulations of the precariousness of hegemonic conceptions of the territorial, constitutional, and cultural exceptionalism of the nation as it was challenged by forces and events within and without its coastal borders. Whew, quite a quote. Now I certainly need to give credit for that because I did not write it. So I have my quotation marks around the part that I borrowed from the author, Mr. Taylor. You can see here that I've used, right here, that I've used an ellipsis. That means I didn't include the entire quote. The part that I pulled out I didn't think was necessary for my purposes, but I haven't changed the meaning of the quote. And now, since I've used Mr. Taylor's name in my lead-in sentence, all I need here is the parentheses with the page number on which I found this article. And then, of course, I end it with a period. So now let's talk about how this would look on the list of works cited. Newspapers, magazines, and scholarly journals all appear at regular intervals, and we need to acknowledge this when we're doing a works cited page. Scholarly journals typically appear less frequently than newspapers or magazines and are directed at a specialized audience. They are continuously paginated throughout the year. That means that the first issue of the year will start with page 1 and then end with, let's say, page 50. The second issue of the year will start with page 51 and end with 126, however long the article goes, and so on. Most scholarly journals contain volume and issue information. So there's a lot more information to contend with on your works cited page. As a rule, there's a specific order to arrange an entry for a print periodical. First thing, of course, author's last name and first name followed by a period. Then we have the title of the article in quotation marks with a period inside the quotes. Then we have the name of the periodical in italics. Then we have the series number or the name if relevant. Now this is not common. Most often you are not going to have number 4 on your citation. Then you're going to have the volume number for a scholarly journal, and that will be followed by a period. Next, we're going to have the issue number if it's available for a scholarly journal, and some publications have them and some don't. That just varies from journal to journal. Next, we have the date of the publication, which is in parentheses, and then that's followed by a colon. And then scholarly journals, you're usually just going to include the year, and yeah, you're just going to include the year. And then we have the page numbers of the article, followed by a period. And then the medium of publication, whether it's print or online or whatever. And then finally, there would be supplementary information. That is very uncommon. You're not likely to use numbers 4 and 10. So the article I used above would look like this on my Works Cited page. Let me just scroll down a little bit for you so you can see this. So Taylor, comma, David Francis, period. The Disenchanted Island, a political history of the Tempest. There's my title. And, oops, I'm not done with my title. 1760 to 1830. And then the period inside the quotes. And then the title of the journal, which is Shakespeare Quarterly, the best journal on the planet. And that was volume number 63. All right, and then it was the issue number is 4. It was from 2012. And then I used pages 487 to 517, which is the entire article. And it was print. So that's what my citation would look like. And of course, I would need to use a hanging indent. Can't forget the period at the end there. And that's how it goes.